We'll call,
have to adjust this because I didn't know it's going to be Armin.
okay, we're going to call the information meeting to order, and I believe we have to take the rolls. So Dan, would you start that?
Representative Daley. Oh, that's loud.
Present.
Representative Bellman.
We're not doing it.
On leave. You just said
On leave.
Representative Boyd.
On leave.
Representative Brennan.
On leave. See who is here.
Representative Cepeda Freitas.
Here.
Representative Serrato.
Here.
Representative Powell. Representative Probst.
Leave.
Representative Prokopiak. Representative Rivera.
Leave.
Representative Rusnak.
Leave.
Representative Steele.
Leave.
Representative Takak.
Leave.
And Representative Young.
Leave.
Representative Lee.
Leave.
Representative Armanini.
Here.
Representative Banta.
Leave.
Representative Barger.
Leave.
Representative Cook.
Leave.
Representative Cooper.
Here.
Representative Flick.
Leave.
Representative Jones.
Here. Here. Sorry.
Representative Pickett.
Leave.
Representative Smith. Here. Representative Twardzik.
Here.
And Representative Wentling.
Leave.
All right. Today's meeting is an information meeting, and I'm delighted that Deputy Secretary Ann Ryan, Deputy Secretary for Tourism Ann Ryan, was able to join us today. She's been in the job, I think, a little bit over a year, and I know I've seen her at some of the regional gatherings of tourism and visiting and convention bureaus meetings, so I know she's around the state doing her job, and I'm very excited. I also have to just let everyone know that I had always been discouraged that at the Philadelphia Flower Show there was not any real presence from the Pennsylvania Tourism Office, but I would tell you that last year, many of you may have been to the Flower Show, but it was a wonderful exhibit. They brought in a whole model of an elk. They were featuring some of the western Pennsylvania areas, and it was a real hit. And I hope to see that again and again for every flower show. So I just really congratulate you for doing that, because it was a wonderful surprise to walk through and see that big elk. And many of us have probably been to Elk County, and that's a great spot also. So it was really fun to be able to get your picture taken with a very large elk. So, so I want to just say that Representatives Rothkopf and Rusnak and Representative Young have joined us, and I think that's it.
Representative Pickett has joined virtually.
Oh, great, great. And Representative Armanini is sitting in for Chair James today, so do you have any opening remarks?
Just thank you for being here. It's very nice to see the administration taking part with the Tourism Committee. Last year, I'll be honest with you, we were a little offended when you rolled out the new scheme for Pennsylvania, and we found out at the same time it was being sent out. We've got great people on this committee, and you need to reach out to us because we can help you. So thank you for being here.
All right. Secretary, would you like to come to the table and start your presentation?
Of course, thank you.
And you're the only one on the agenda today, so
All right.
we have all the time, and we should have plenty of time for QA.
Great, perfect. Just make sure I get this close enough. All right, good morning, everybody. Chair Daley and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to share how Pennsylvania is preparing to make history in 2026 and how we've laid the groundwork to do so through strategic planning, bold partnerships, and smart marketing, all of which would not be possible without your support of Governor Shapiro's $19.3 million tourism budget. We are grateful for your partnership and your belief in the power of tourism to drive economic growth, create jobs, and showcase the rich tapestry of destinations that make Pennsylvania iconically unforgettable. So let's start with the present. In 2024, Pennsylvania's tourism industry outperformed national averages. Hotel rooms sold grew 1% over 2023, totaling 33 million rooms. Hotel room revenue totaled $4.7 billion, 1.4% higher than the prior year, and beating the overall U.S. hotel room demand by more than double. When it comes to jobs, our leisure and hospitality workforce grew by 14%, outpacing all neighboring states. These gains show our renewed investment in tourism is working. Our brand campaign, The Great American Getaway, is also making an impact. The campaign drove record engagement in the amount of people who see our ads out in the world and across their devices, especially in key drive markets like New Jersey, New York, and Ohio, which proves that our shift in marketing strategy to target the 72 million people who live within a 4-hour drive is also working. The Great American Getaway campaign has provided a compelling platform to tell the stories of the many destinations and attractions across our Commonwealth. In fact, we're building quite a reputation for creating marketing activations that turn heads, like the Visit PA Volkswagen that traveled from New York to DC and interacted with over 200,000 people to tell the world that it's fall year in PA, or the Groundhog Day Swagon that made the trek to Punxsutawney and promoted PA to thousands of visitors from across the country and the world. Even our digital tactics are upping tourism's game, notably social media influencers who inspire their followers with unexpected itineraries and discoveries all across our Commonwealth. While the Tourism Office is thrilled over both the economic impact and marketing wins that it has achieved over the last year, our pride is rooted in the relationships we've built with the destination marketing organizations across the state, or as we call them, our DMO partners. We meet monthly with the DMOs where we share updates, marketing and media plans, grant information, and our general whereabouts, promoting radical transparency and accessibility to prove that we are here to be a good partner. We've held statewide listening sessions and roundtable discussions to better understand each region's opportunities and challenges. Additionally, we've administered $6 million in grants to ensure that the investment in state tourism is truly an investment in the entire Commonwealth. The Office of Tourism has achieved massive gains in just 9 months. And if 2024 and 2025 are about momentum, 2026 is about seizing the moment. So let's talk about 2026, a year that has been decades in the making for many. From the 250th anniversary of America to the FIFA World Cup, the NFL Draft, the PGA Championship, and the MLB All-Star Series, 2026 is Pennsylvania's biggest tourism opportunity in a generation. And let me be clear, it is not the norm for a single state to host so many marquee events in a single year. It is as exceptional as it is exciting. Pennsylvania will be the epicenter of the world, with millions of people visiting and billions more watching. Our strategy isn't just to host great events. We will turn every event in 2026 into a catalyst for statewide exploration and lasting economic impact. Here's how. It all kicks off July 5th of this year, in just a couple of months, with the launch of Pennsylvania 2026, a bold campaign designed to spotlight the blockbuster events coming to Pennsylvania and spark serious FOMO in visitors near and far. This campaign will pulse through 2025 and go full throttle on January 1st, 2026, right through our major events into July 4th when we light up the sky across the state. We have one clear goal in 2026, and this might be the most important thing I say this morning. Our goal in 2026 is to move visitors beyond the host cities and inspire travel across the entire Commonwealth. Some examples. Come and watch the NFL Draft, and then go and explore Freedom Falls. Attend the PGA Championship at Aronimink, and then head to the Pocono Mountains for a restful reprieve. Then there is the FIFA World Cup, where we have 39 days of host state opportunity. We're positioning Pennsylvania as the central home base for World Cup fans, offering easier access to all East Coast matches, lower cost, and richer experiences than the other host cities. And when fans aren't taking the train to matches in Philly, East Rutherford, or Boston, we'll give them a reason to visit the elk in the PA wilds, to surf Lake Erie, or to raft the Laurel Highlands. With the World Cup celebration won't stop in Philadelphia. Through our partnership with Philadelphia Soccer 2026, we're giving every DMO across the state the chance to host official FIFA watch parties through Visit PA's access to FIFA brand rights. This access would typically require millions in brand licensing fees. However, we're offering it for a nominal buy-in, with plans to subsidize that cost through a match grant pending appropriation of the additional $10 million in 2026 marketing funds as proposed in Governor Shapiro's 2025-2026 budget. We're also launching 3 major fan zones in western, central, and northeastern Pennsylvania, featuring jumbotrons, food and beverage, youth soccer events, and so much more, creating a World Cup atmosphere in every region, drawing visitors from surrounding states and injecting new energy into our regional economies. Tourism doesn't begin and end with these marquee events. Visit PA will engage visitors before, during, and after their trips, building lasting relationships that turn one-time visits into repeat travel, so every visitor will be part of a longer story, one where Pennsylvania becomes their go-to great American getaway for years to come. We're also excited to share that our marketing strategy will manifest in the physical world. Now through 2026, we're building physical activations that will excite visitors about the entire state. At the Independence Visitor Center in Philadelphia, we're creating an immersive experience to help guests plan trips across Pennsylvania. In Pittsburgh, Visit PA is co-branding the new visitor center at the Heinz History Center with Visit Pittsburgh to show the broader Commonwealth. We're exploring partnerships with Philadelphia and Pittsburgh airports to create immersive arrival and departure zones. And we're developing turnkey overnight bus tours from Philadelphia to places like Gettysburg, Hershey, the Poconos, and Lancaster. These could spark a bus culture, creating a legacy and economic impact that lasts beyond 2026. It must be said, while March to July will be packed with events next year, we have a responsibility to inspire visitation all year long. The Great American Getaway campaign will continue running across our target drive markets throughout all of 2026, highlighting our spring blooms, fall foliage, and our winter wonderlands. We must continue with our goal to inspire the 72 million people who live within a 4-hour drive to visit Pennsylvania, whether for a weekend, a festival, or a family getaway. 2026 isn't just a year or a moment. It has become a statewide movement. Communities across Pennsylvania are rallying to make sure that we don't miss a single shot at making history. That's why we formed PA United, a coalition of statewide organizers driving 2026 success. Like a torch passed from one event to the next, we'll build momentum through every corner of the Commonwealth, culminating in a July 4th celebration unlike anything this country has ever seen. With your support of Governor Shapiro's $64 million budget proposal to ensure our Commonwealth is prepared to welcome the world in 2026, we'll carry that torch, host world-class events, and ensure every region of Pennsylvania benefits from the epic year ahead. Thank you for the opportunity to share the exciting events that Pennsylvania has to offer state residents as well as prospective visitors. I look forward to any questions as well as the opportunity to work collaboratively with you and your offices to ensure that Pennsylvania is the destination of choice in 2026 and for so many more years to come. Thank you.
Thank you for all that information. It's very exciting, and I think some of our members have questions.
Please.
But I also want to let everyone know that Representative Brennan is here with us now.
Oh.
So, Representative Speed Freitas.
Good morning, and thank you so
morning.
much for your presentation, the excitement and energy in which you presented. So I have a few questions. So I'm originally from New York City, and I absolutely love Pennsylvania, right? It's my new home. And oftentimes I find that Pennsylvanians don't appreciate what we have
Yep.
right in our backyards. And while I appreciate neighboring states investing here, what are we doing to promote Pennsylvania to Pennsylvanians, right?
Sure.
That's question number one. And also, is there data to see how much Pennsylvanians are utilizing and exploring their own Commonwealth? And lastly, how do we as legislators support the efforts of what you're doing? How do we communicate to our constituents what's happening? You know, is there a list? Is there something that we should be plugging and promoting within our districts? And I said lastly, but no, there's one more thing. And is there a discount or incentive or something of some sort for PA residents so that they can enjoy the Great American Getaway?
Yes,
Thank you.
all three questions. I might need you to remind me of one or two of them. So I love your first question because tourism has the power to evoke civic pride. And you know, something we say a lot as we're traveling the state is that Pennsylvania needs to brag about itself more, right? So we do spend about 30% of our media budget advertising in Pennsylvania. And a good portion of our social media followers are also Pennsylvania residents. Our DMOs, of which there's about 50 across the state, a lot of their followers are also folks in their own counties and regions. So there are, you know, constant streams of messages, whether from the state level or at the local level, that is showing residents like the wealth of assets in their communities, you know, to try to increase that morale. In terms of how the legislature can support, I would say that, again, your local DMOs, like they're the ones representing your region, your county. And so, you know, ensuring that they have, you know, the assets, the resources that they need to continue to promote all of the wonderful tourism destinations and attractions in their region, that just all funnels up to impact the state overall at a macro level. So continuing to ensure that your local DMO is supported. And then lastly, third question.
PA discount.
The
Discounts for
discount.
PA residents to get them to go out and explore.
Yeah, that's a conversation we're certainly happy to have with our DMOs. At the Visit PA level, we're not booking rooms or booking deals, so to speak. Our job is to create that mass awareness to keep Pennsylvania top of mind, get folks to our website and our social media channels, and then funnel them to the DMOs across the regions. The DMOs then, they're there to close the sale, as I say. So there are often packages that are created generally for visitors, and I think it's a wonderful opportunity to see how we might create similar packages for Pennsylvanians.
One thing before I ask the next speaker to ask their question is that Representative Belmont has joined us. Representative Powell, do you have a question?
Ooh, thank you so much. My question is more on the stay side. So while we are encouraging, rightfully so, tourism across the state, for some of our municipalities and counties, it's really difficult to sustain that level of tourism because we need more hotels, we need more bed space. Can you talk a little bit about the efforts that your department, through efforts directly that you've encouraged or other initiatives or strategies? Could you talk a little bit more about making it easier for people to stay when they are enjoying the Great American Getaway?
Sure. So one of the grants that we administered is called the Great American Getaway Co-op, and the purpose of that grant comes down to collaboration. So recognizing that there are some counties that don't have many hotels or don't have commercial corridors and frankly just don't have a ton of tourism assets. How can they partner with a county next to them or a city close to them to create an itinerary where, if you're the Laurel Highlands, for example, you're partnering with Visit Pittsburgh. So Visit Pittsburgh, which has more resources, more reach, they can get folks in for a game, but then they can work with the Laurel Highlands to get folks out to Falling Water, for example. So this grant provides funding to create marketing assets so that we break down the county borders, because that's how visitors don't see county borders, right? And help our counties that can benefit from the might of the bigger counties next to them to get those visitor dollars. They might not get the overnight because they don't have the hotels, but the visitor spending, which is still taxed, is still helpful to their local economy.
And just for clarity, that grant is more for coordination between entities, not so much for development or incentivizing hoteliers and other lodging.
Yeah, the funding is to create, the experiences and the itinerary, those marketing assets, as well as then to engage with influencers to promote that itinerary and those assets. It is not for lodging. We've had conversations recently about, what are some potential revenue streams to increase tourism assets, to look at lodging. But currently, the Marketing to Attract Tourists budget, it's not designed for capital investment.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I sit on Visit Pittsburgh's board, and not to monopolize the conversation, but I think that marketing obviously is incredibly important for regions like Western PA, like Visit Pittsburgh. It is great to have those dollars, but it still persists that we bring people in and we don't have anywhere for them to stay. So I'd love to continue this conversation outside of this space to better invest in lodging and hotels so that people have an incentive to stay long-term in some of these DMOs.
Yeah.
So thank you.
We would love to talk about that as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Representative Twardzik, you have a question?
Good morning, Ann. Thank you so much for spending time with us. It's always exciting to hear tourism and enjoy Pennsylvania. Quick question. I'm trying to understand the World Cup. Being an older guy, I don't really know soccer that well. I'm from football country.
Yeah.
But the real football is coming and will take over our state, which is going to be wonderful. But where are the 3 fan zones located, and how did we choose those?
Yes, so we're working to identify venues now, but we're looking at Pittsburgh. We're looking at Hershey because there's a U.S. men's soccer player who is from Hershey, as well as the Scranton area. So we're in the process of identifying venues because there's various needs like parking, a soccer field, infrastructure for the Jumbotron. And FIFA has a lot of regulations where you can't have other brands' signage present, so that makes it difficult to work with some of the sports stadiums that have their own local sponsors. So the cities I named are where we're going to be hosting the fan zones. The exact venues to be determined.
Okay, well, it sounds like it's a nice spreading of the crew that's coming into Philadelphia to share the wealth.
That's exactly it. We don't want any Pennsylvania resident to have to drive more than 2 hours to be in the FIFA environment. And we learned that 70% of folks who travel for the FIFA World Cup don't have a ticket. They just want to be in the energy and just kind of feel the FIFA ethos. So we're hoping that these fan zones outside of Lemon Hill and Philadelphia, they'll be great for our residents, of course, but then they can also act as a tourism draw.
Wonderful. I hope our local PASHE schools or branch campuses at Penn State have a chance to bring some new revenue in and show off their facilities.
That is our hope as well. Okay, meeting with the universities is our #1 priority as venues. So I might reach out to you about that.
Representative Serrato, you have a question?
Yes, thank you for coming today. So a lot of my question was actually answered, had to do with collaboration. I know that in all of our tours and our meetings with PA 250, it's huge to talk about the collaboration that's going on amongst different areas, amongst the hotels and the restaurants and the different venues. But at the end of the day, we have to get these people around Pennsylvania. And we are significantly in trouble when it comes to our mass transit in all areas of Pennsylvania right now. Is the tourism department doing anything to try and promote mass transit in order to keep them afloat, because the reality is the meetings we're having say they may be gone by 2026 if funding doesn't show up. So we need to increase ridership now so that they're still around in order to move all of these tourists from one part of the state to the other. So is tourism actually trying to collaborate in that sense to work to get people back into mass transit?
Yeah. So great question of equal concern for us as well. We were briefed in by SEPTA last week. So those conversations are beginning now. After being read in, we're having conversations with various folks across the Commonwealth to raise awareness of just how detrimental it'll be to the visitor experience if you can't get to Lincoln Financial Field after 9 o'clock at night, for example. So, at this juncture, conversations are just beginning. I have yet to understand where our leverage is in the conversation, other than to say these events in 2026, they're just as much about getting visitors to come again as they are next year, and they'll only come again if they can get around the state and have a seamless experience. So I would love to keep you posted as those conversations develop. But I will tell you that we saw red when we heard the impact that this is going to have. So more to come on that.
Thank you. I think when we're also talking about the collaboration where you say we're getting them into Pittsburgh to see a sports game, but then we're trying to get them to go to the Laurel Highlands, even if those organizations are like, hey, here's exactly where you would jump on mass transit in Pittsburgh to get to this area without having to, jump through hoops. I think if we can try and get more engagement from all of the parties involved and say, here's our recommendation, you don't have to worry about driving or finding parking in the city or, that kind of thing, it would probably be helpful.
Yeah, and on that note, I mentioned the turnkey bus tours. We landed on that idea because in order to distribute folks from the host cities out, we have to make it as easy as possible. And there isn't a bus culture in Pennsylvania, not to the extent that we need. So in partnering with some coach tours now in Philadelphia to get folks out to the western regions, the hope is to replicate that model in Pittsburgh as well. There's revenue models and things that we need to work through, but the turnkey transportation options, that is something that we're looking to test this summer so that we can get feedback and data to then fully roll out next summer.
That's great. Thank you for that answer, because I think a lot of us have a concern about mass transit and what's going to happen with that. So let's see. Where's my list? Representative Young, it is your turn.
Well, I would like to start by saying we know great things happen in Philadelphia, of course. However, great things happen across this entire Commonwealth, and so I'm so excited to be a part of this conversation and on this particular committee. Two questions. One is infrastructure, right? You mentioned it, but I would love for you to unpack that a little bit more, because as we are not only preparing for 2026, we really want to make sure that we keep the Commonwealth visible. And when I speak to the different people in this space, infrastructure is not necessarily highlighted, but it's necessary. I would like to know what your office and department is doing to really support entities that need infrastructure dollars. Once these dollars are allocated to you in the department, is that something you're considering?
It's something that we would love to consider. The infrastructure, you're looking often at millions and millions of dollars in capital investment. And while the $19.3 million budget, is certainly satisfactory to promote Pennsylvania, we're buying the most expensive media market in New York and DC, Cleveland. So the tourism office itself, we don't have the funding to support infrastructure projects. What we can do is work with PennDOT and have conversations to learn what they're doing, to work with the local municipalities to understand how they might be addressing issues. It goes back to the conversation we just had where we're working to identify revenue streams so that we can identify where the funding can come from to invest in improving infrastructure and creating new tourism assets. That funding doesn't currently exist at the moment.
Right, and so what I hear you saying, correct me if I'm incorrect, you're not only working to make sure that you're bringing those resources to the prospective places, but you're also communicating with these prospective places to
Oh,
let
yeah.
them know they don't have to work in silos. Is that correct?
That is correct. We're working with a state organization, PRLA, in fact, on the hotel piece. I don't want to give too many details, but we're down a path with identifying various ways we might be able to create a revenue stream for infrastructure and tourism assets. And we have conversations, as I said, with the DMOs each month. A lot of their concerns are the road conditions. So the conversations are happening, we're communicating it out. It's identifying what the right funding source will be.
Great. Last question, budget balance, right? As we know marketing is a big deal and it is really underfunded. So as we climb towards the mark that we absolutely need to be comparable to our other states, the budget balance in your department, what does that balance look like as it relates to administration and marketing? So as we need these dollars more so now than ever to market the Commonwealth, do you find that most of the budget or the dollars that's in your budget currently goes for the administrative side or the marketing, or is it equal? And if you can talk a little bit about what those variances look like, that would be helpful.
Sure. So the majority of the budget goes to our media buy. So we spend about $14 million a year in the media buy. And then there's $6 million, as I shared, administered in grants. So the promotion of Pennsylvania is number one, and then number two is ensuring that we're taking care of our DMOs and providing them with grant opportunities to either secure more sporting events to fill those hotel rooms, to hold conferences and festivals, which fill hotel rooms, as well as the Great American Getaway Co-op that I mentioned. The other portions of the budget, we have agency partners. So much of tourism is how creative the campaign is, PR, social media. So that would be the third leg of the stool in terms of how the budget is executed.
Thank you.
All right. Representative Rivera has joined us. Do you by any chance have a question? I know you just walked in and didn't hear the presentation. Perfect, okay. Anybody else? No? Representative Armanini.
Thank you, Secretary. Truly appreciate the time and the questions that you're answering for us. I'm from Elk Country, okay? I'm very skeptical that you're going to be able to bring soccer players, soccer fans to that area.
Yep.
One, getting there is going to be just by vehicle anyway. We've talked of course, the mass transportation that we're going to need. We're realizing that Philadelphia and Pittsburgh are, what is Pittsburgh, 117 million? Help me out, Philadelphia. What does your mass transit need? 240 million?
231, I think.
231.
234 or something.
We had PA 250 in here asking, basically almost doubling Governor Shapiro's budget for this. So added up, we're at $500 million to promote Pennsylvania with no revenue source. What are we going to do? That concerns me.
Yeah.
Because just like everyone here, I'm Pennsylvania born and raised, truly believe that we do have the greatest state in the union, and we have so much to offer. Mass transit is going to be very difficult. If anyone has ever been to Europe, we will never appease the Europeans with getting them from point A to point B, because we just don't have it, and they're not used to our slowness compared to their speed. So that's going to be an obstacle that I don't think we're going to be able to overcome. But hopefully we can work, with this, with the funding that you're requiring, because this is going to be a good caveat for mass transit to get the money from us to operate, because if they're not there, they're going to really put us in a bind with everything that's going on in Pennsylvania. And you know, one thing that we know in Pennsylvania, we can promote ourselves. You know, I come from the western part of the state. I'm a Pittsburgh Steeler fan. You don't have to promote anything in Pittsburgh for the Steelers, because if you go there in a game, people are making that their destination, because that is something that they want to do, is witness a home Steeler game. And there's no marketing that needs to be involved. You know, and we also know, like with the hotel revenue that you've, you know, showed us and so forth, we do have our hotel taxes. You know, is there a way that with the influx of all these people coming in, basically foreigners, we need to economically take advantage of them somehow? Even though you're saying you want to be the low cost, we have to benefit from them. You know, there's a reason why in Pittsburgh, if you stay in a hotel on a weekend, it's $200, but when the Steelers are in town, it's $600. You know, we have to work to that somewhat capacity to make this work, or we are going to find out after we do everything that we're going to be in severe debt. And that's what I'm worried about, that, you know, making sure that with this budget, you know, are we able to see how are you spending? Where is it spending? How are we going to generate?
Sure.
We need to generate income. That's how we pay for things. And, you know, I really believe that you have to take advantage of collaborating with the General Assembly. We're free. Okay, you know, you can give us all your social media and communications, and we should be, you know, your voice. You should let us, you know, be part of this to help this, because we want to see everything succeed. And just my only question for you is, you know, what is the relationship with the DMOs? Is it an organizational structure? Do you pass down policies and this is how we're going to do it? Or are they independent? Like, how do you make sure they are doing the goal?
Sure. So they are independent. I come from a client service background, and I see the DMOs as my clients. I am here to understand their challenges and their opportunities and identify how the state can help, either through resources, advocacy, et cetera. So it's a mutually beneficial relationship. If they get grant funds from the Office of Tourism, there are requirements in there that they use the Great American Getaway branding. But beyond that, the reporting structure is equal partnership and ensuring that the state is listening and providing to their needs. And I do just want to touch on a bit of what you shared there. So the projected estimate, I'll have official numbers on April 30th, but in speaking with the NFL draft in Pittsburgh, Philadelphia soccer, we're looking at about an incremental 2 million visitors next year. Could be a bit more than that, but at least 2 million. The other projection is that most of those will be coming from the drive market. U.S. Folks, Americans, travel for the World Cup more than any other country. So while we are expecting to host international guests, the majority will be within the drive market. And you know, while we're still going to need to rely on transportation in the Philadelphia and Pittsburgh areas to get back and forth to stadiums, we are hoping that many people will also have a car. And that if we're marketing the various areas throughout the state, that they can get in their car and drive. So, because, I'm with you. The Wilds is pretty far. Elk County is pretty far from Philadelphia. But if somebody's coming from Michigan, and they're staying outside of Philadelphia for 39 days, they're going to be willing to travel a little bit further. And they're also going to be looking for things to do in between matches. So that's the job of marketing. And for folks that don't have a car, and if there are transportation challenges, we're using this event to raise awareness of Pennsylvania's assets. Most people don't know that we have elk in Elk County. What we're finding is that there's a lack of awareness about Pennsylvania's rich resources. And so maybe they won't travel in this trip, but once they learn about the outdoor recreation opportunities, maybe we can get them back a year later. So I'm absolutely with you, but we have to take advantage of this opportunity. Yes, to get folks to spend money while they're here and stay overnight, but to also get them back. So it's not just 1 year of economic impact; it's economic impact over several years.
Correct, and and to that point, living in Treasure Lake, Du Bois, that is right off of Interstate 80. So whenever Penn State is playing at home and they're playing any school west on 80, that town becomes the opponent's meeting place. And even though State College is 75 miles away from us, Du Bois, Brookville, Clarion, those are where fans from these teams are staying because, of course, it's a better rate for a hotel compared to being in State College. But, you know, are we marketing following the Penn State schedule? You know, when we're playing Michigan, it's probably a good idea to maybe push advertising in Michigan 2 to 3 weeks before they're coming in, because it is unreal when we go out in Du Bois. You're not in Happy Valley, you're in Big Blue, or you know, whatever it is, and it's very interesting. And we also see a lot of Canadians come into our area for our golf courses, and the Canadians love to come to the area, and they play golf. And when they say we can come here for the weekend and it costs us less than playing 2 rounds of golf in Canada, you know, that's fantastic. And they are venturing out. So, you know, it's really working. And how do we do this? And I know we're benefited from our area, but it's just really scary the amount of money that this is going to have to generate to make it a successful event. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much for the presentation. I really appreciate it. And I jotted down all of these different things, so they're not going to be in any particular order. But one of them is, like, traveling between Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. Quite honestly, my experience is, ooh, I don't like Pittsburgh. And then I found out, oh, actually, you do like Pittsburgh. It's a really great city. It's fun to visit. It's got all kinds of stuff going on. And there's a flight between Philadelphia and Pittsburgh that is a very low rate. You have to be limited in what luggage you take. You have to pay extra if you're going to do that. But I'm just wondering if you're also marketing something like that, because it just makes it, it's like you're just not on the road for 4 or 5 hours. You're in an airport, you're flying, you're in another airport. They all have things going on in those airports. So I'm just curious if that's one of the things you're thinking about, because I think I did it recently, so that's why I'm energized by it.
Yeah.
And it was just, I didn't like spend more time. It was just great, and so I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, well, I'm with you. By the way, I love Pittsburgh. I'm always looking for reasons to go to Pittsburgh. So we're working. When the Steelers played the Eagles in December, that was when we really identified through some data that these are 2 cities that are not visiting each other. I don't know if any of you noticed. As a result, we had a showdown, and the showdown was very much about educating each city on what the other city offers on social media. We had a website experience. The Enquirer had lots of polls. And so as we move forward, now that the flight, I think that's the Frontier flight, is back, it's certainly a trip that's going to be promoted, but we have to promote it both ways. We have to get Pittsburgh to also travel to Philadelphia as well. So that will be part of our in-state marketing efforts this summer and certainly through the fall. And we are in initial conversations with our airports to understand what are the flights and the routes going to be as we go into 2026, because that's going to be critical. As again, Pennsylvania needs to own being the central gateway to matches from Boston down to Miami. So it won't just be the Pittsburgh to Philadelphia route. We're going to have to tell an entire story of accessibility.
Oh, I like that idea of a story. I'm going to stay in the airports, and I'm thinking of the exhibit that you had at the flower show and the elk. Seriously, I've been to elk country a couple of times, and it's amazing. Like, is there any way to reuse them at the airports?
Yeah, so the Independence Visitor Center, actually, I believe we're going to be using the elk. I left this out of the testimony, but we now have Pennsylvania kiosks where you can create your itinerary and email it to yourself. And we're going to be looking at the visitor center activation to see what works. We're very data-driven. and then replicate that in the Heinz History Center as well as in the Philadelphia airport. So we did a full immersive trip of the Philadelphia airport in December to identify where we want to activate. Airports, FIFA gets first right of refusal on various portions of the airport, so we're working through where that will be. But the answer is yes, we want to create something really experiential because we have to make a first impression as folks are going to get their baggage, and then we need to make that lasting impression as they're leaving. The Pittsburgh airport, we were actually just out there last week. And again, there we're talking about, they have that beautiful outdoor area that they're adding now as part of the renovation. Can we take that over to really have hammocks and Adirondack chairs and beautiful images of our outdoor areas, right? Can we put the elk there, for example? So, we are looking for ways to activate across the state. We have to go where the masses are, and that's in the airports, that's in our cities. So as we get renderings, we'll be happy to share them so you can see what's coming down the pike.
Oh, that would be great, because I think that elk should travel around Pennsylvania. The elk they have.
The stuffed one.
Yeah, it's really amazing because it's big.
It's life-size, yes it is.
And I don't know. I just remember my first trip to Elk Country. It was with one of the committees, and it was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And so I went back another time because with another, one of the visits, and it's just. I hate to say I want to go every year because I don't really want to go every year because you're right, the driving around is not as much fun as you think it might be, but it's just such an amazing place, and I think one of the places and the visitor center is just very hip. So, okay, bus culture. I was so happy to see that as part of your talk because having been to Europe a few times, they really love bus trips. Yep. They're, and I kept thinking about them, so I'm really glad to hear that you don't have to talk about that as much, but I just think it's really exciting because it seemed to me one of the things that if people are going to, when there may be people who really want to go to the reenactments of some of the battles that we had for different wars, that's kind of a cross-county kind of thing because they're in a lot of different parts in the state. And it just seems like those are perfect ideas for bus trips. So I was really excited to hear you talk about that. So is there going to be a revenue report that's going to, I know Tourism Economics does that. Do they do that just annually?
They do it annually, and we expect 2024's economic impact report to be ready at the end of June. So we're actually very proud of that, to have it 6 months after the year has closed. Typically it can take as long as a year or longer. And as soon as we have that, you'll get the first draft. And as I said, on April 30th, Tourism Economics will be sending us the projected economic impact of 2026, which may help inform some decision making.
So just in thinking of this committee as ways to inform us about the things that are going on, is it potentially worthwhile to bring Tourism Economics in to do a meeting like this?
Yeah, the CEO and founder, Adam Sachs, lives in Wayne. He's a wonderful partner. He speaks at a lot of our events. I'm certain that he would love to come in and meet with you.
All right. The members can also weigh in on if that would be interesting to them, but I feel like there's, you get on this committee and you go on tours, and they're really fun, and the hosts are really terrific, and you get to see an area, but I feel like the economic impact, we added economic development to the name of the committee because it was very clear that that was a big revenue driver for the state. And it was like, it's not just a fun committee, it's actually a committee that people are out there in jobs, communities are involved, and that it's really has a huge impact for the state. And we have to, I think really boost that. So I'm really happy to hear that the money that I know you got additional money last year, and I think it sounds like you're really using it in a good way with the media, and that was good. So we can think about that. Mass transit I live in one of the areas where they're talking about getting rid of regional rail, because it's on an Amtrak line, because they have to pay Amtrak, I think, $65 million a year.
Yeah.
These are, big deals. So, and I cannot even imagine, I mean, I worked in Philadelphia before I was in the State House and took public transportation. And it's unimaginable to me, so I feel like it is a really big issue, and I'm
Yeah.
glad to know that you are also focused on that.
Yeah.
I don't know that I have would you ever be interested in, if we had a tour, knowing when it was and maybe joining us for part of it?
Yes, actually, I heard you're going to, I believe, Laurel Caverns potentially.
Yes.
In May, which I'm also dying to see. But any tours, even if you would like me to come to your offices for a one-on-one meeting, I will take you up on the offer to. We'll share our social media assets with you. It's super important to me that you're all completely read in and aware on what the tourism office is doing. Also, so you can share guidance, right, as it relates to your specific counties and regions. So please, any time I can be of support or join you in a tour, I'm more than happy.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah.
That would be great. And do you have interaction with DCNR and the outdoor recreation work that they're doing?
We do. So Nathan and Ricky are very good friends of ours. We meet with them every other week and talk in between. We're currently working on a summer program. So of course we have over 100 free state parks. But to your point about we need people spending money, how do we productize those? How do we keep the parks free, but perhaps work with local tours to have bird watching, forest bathing, which I just learned about, the silent book club. We have to look at the trends of what consumers and travelers want, offer those, the same way you would take a tour in Europe, right? Pay 40 or so dollars, or determining the amount, and then build that local tour culture, also teach about conservation, et cetera. So, they're really creative, and they're open to any idea that's not just going to promote our state parks, but also help build the outdoor rec economy, which we also feel very passionately about.
Right. So would it be reasonable to maybe invite both of you to come to a meeting like this?
Of course, yeah. Nathan and I speak quite a bit together at various events, so we'd be happy to. Yeah.
Okay, great. And Representative Flick, I believe, just got here, but he has a question. Is that correct?
Thank you, Chairwoman.
Good.
Secretary, thank you for being here. I want to thank you for last year for coming to the Little League Parade during the Little League
So
World
fun.
Series
Yeah.
and hanging out. Greatly appreciate it. And I, of course, want to extend the offer again this mid-August for you to grace us.
We'll be there.
All right,
And
thank you
we're
so
going
much.
to activate bigger and better this year. So
Great.
get
I'm
ready.
going to be inviting, as Chairwoman knows, the entire Tourism Committee to the Little League World Series this year. So, thank you.
And we're looking forward to that invitation. We're really slow at the RSVP sometimes, but, and you can see that, the members of the committee, a lot of them have maybe 4 or 5 additional committees that they serve on, so it's sometimes hard to get their attention, and it's a much younger group of people who are representatives now than when I first started here. So a lot of people have families, that but we actually welcome families on the tour, so accepting that if they're during a weekday, then that doesn't really work because kids are in school. But I don't know what time it is. Oh, this is great. So we're actually not running over.
Oh, good.
It's good for your calendar. It's good for ours, I'm sure. And I really appreciate your being here today and then offering to meet with us individually. You mentioned meeting with me and the minority chair on a more regular basis. And I think that would be really helpful because I feel like we're all looking for the same kinds of things and just keeping up the communication. It's just really important. So I'm excited about a lot of what you talked about. The Pennsylvania United, is that something that's working with the 250 Commission, or it's more of a independent group?
It's an independent group. Cassandra is on it, so what we identified is there's so many efforts across the state, and in some cases, folks are trying to do similar things. And if we're going to win 2026, it can't just be the one-off events. Like, we really have to. What is our physical torch, right? Like, what is our Olympic moment? So, the coalition includes Visit Pittsburgh, the NFL Draft, PGA, Visit Philly, Cassandra, as I said, from America 250 PA, Visit Gettysburg, Visit Lancaster, the collar counties that are most impacted by the visitors and will expect the most amount of visitor overflow. And our first meeting actually is on May 28th. And the point of that meeting is so everybody can share out their plans, identify areas for partnership where they can bolster each other's plans, and then have just a free thinking workshop on how we can connect every single event so it feels like one cohesive 2026 experience.
So is there any chance you would be willing to invite someone from this committee to
Sure.
join Pennsylvania United? Because it would, if you're meeting on a regular basis, it would also give us an opportunity to be in tune with all the things that are going on. And I think that is important for our members because, representatives, we represent maybe 62,000 people, maybe a little bit more or less, each of us. And, we all have district offices and people come to our district offices. And I feel like, it would be a missed opportunity to not engage us. And I think the Tourism, Recreation, and Economic Development Committee is a good way to do that.
Yeah. I'm learning just how much engagement I can expect of all of you because I know you're so busy. It is endless on our part. Any meeting, any effort, you are certainly welcome to join. It sounds like perhaps a monthly or maybe every month memo or just an update might be helpful for all of you, which we're happy to provide. Really, anything that we can do, so again, radical transparency is actually a value in our strategic business plan. Anything that we can do so that the entire committee is fully informed on our efforts, we're happy to. In that memo, we can include meeting dates if anybody is free to join. So it sounds like that's something that might be helpful.
I think it would be.
Yeah.
Because, with people being on other committees, there's a lot of opportunities for us to share information. And I mean, when we had one of these information hearings with the commission, and we invited all of the members in the House to join us. And there were a few people who did come. There was a senator who joined us. So I think, to me, it's just, you don't want to think of it as just that fun committee because you do this and that, but a really serious committee also that we can be useful. And it's exciting to, see what's ahead of us.
Yeah.
And I think we all want it to be really successful.
Yeah, we'll share that meeting information with you, and
Great.
Your office can distribute it, and
Great.
then we'll work on getting a memo developed so we
that
can
would be
keep the
terrific.
committee updated.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I know it took us a long time to get this meeting together, but everybody's busy, and we're not in Harrisburg all the time.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, I understand.
But it's really, really great to have you join
Thank
us
you.
today.
It's
Thank
an
you.
honor. Thank you.
Oh, meeting is adjourned.
There we go.
We're done.